Despite initial reservations whether the event could go ahead, the 750 Motor Club and Motorsport UK worked close together to pull off the impossible, and the 70th annual Birkett 6-hour endurance race at Silverstone was on. It is the biggest race in the UK calendar, with 70 teams, 350 cars and drivers, a huge project to pull off in the COVID-19 environment. This year, Charlie's usual teammates Wade Eastwood and Luciano Becchetta were not available, with filming duties in Italy for Mission Impossible and taking part in an F1 support race in Portimao. Instead, he joined the well-reputed RJ Motorsport and a new set of teammates, both of which were unknown quantities to Charlie, meeting them for the first time on race day. Coming off the back of a win in last year's race, Charlie was feeling bullish of his prospects in the new team. However, just days before the event, RJ Motorsport entered a second team, featuring the latest radical model and a second car with a plethora of trick aero, with an extended rear diffuser, front splitter, and the rear wing pushed back a further 18 inches to increase downforce. The drivers themselves were none other than Scott Mansell as lead driver and ex-teammate Ash Hicklin in the modified Radical, both running their cars on the quicker Challenge tyres, whereas Charlie's car was running on 4-year-old Dunlop slicks. Charlie and his crew made their way to the formation area for the decibel test and some final checks. In last year's race, when the weather was atrocious, Charlie found he was closing in on other cars very quickly and they couldn't see him. So this year, he bought a light exposure 6-pack, which Andy completed fitting ahead of qualifying. The track opened and Charlie took to the circuit, turning the wheels in anger. At 6,000 lumen, the new light was impossible to ignore. After his qualifying session came to an end, Charlie wasn't entirely sure where he'd qualified, but before he could find out, Race Control wanted a word. Charlie made his way to scrutineering, and the team had to hot-foot it over to find out what was happening.
Yes, I got a tug fin. They weren't too happy with the flashing light, but I'll tell you what, it made a serious difference. Everyone was getting out of the way, which is really, really good. But for the race, they won't allow it. We just got to have the light on. It's good investment though, because it really worked. I saw 6 up on the pit wall, so hopefully we'll see what happens here. Radio on.
We've got bleed brakes because we've got a long brake pedal at the moment. It was an issue that we were running with yesterday, and it obviously seems to be an issue that's still transpired through today. Obviously we'll bleed the brakes, get a decent brake pedal back, maybe do something with the air ducts on the front to maybe give it some less temperature running through the heat, and then we're ready to go.
While Andy and the crew got to work, there were unusual adjustments on the pit wall.
There's a step being taken out to the pit wall because one's a little bit too short.
Because racing in 2020 had been drastically reduced due to the pandemic, the Daytona Radical had not seen action since the previous year's race. As a consequence, the brake seals were deteriorating on the master cylinder and calipers. This was a major concern, and the team had to routinely bleed the brakes as new seals could not be fitted in time for the race. Now back in the garage, the timing screen revealed where Charlie really qualified.
Showing next. Radicals 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Scott Mansell, who's an outstanding driver, was ahead of me in a radical, but his teammate, I'm ahead of him. So that tells us where we are, and when he's out there, we'll be on the back foot, but certainly against the next driver, we're quicker than him. Al, who's our, I think, CB driver, has just done a 2:16.9. I think I scored 2:14.07. So we're certainly up there, we're well on the pace, so I'm really pleased with that. So looking competitive, but I think we'll have to see how the other drivers are getting on in quali in a minute.
Despite sitting this one out, Wade and Sam checked on Charlie's progress.
Having breakfast in Venice.
Sam!
I'm just about to watch it on my iPad. I've got it all pulled up on my iPad. It's about to start.
Oh mate, thank you. And can you, Sam, send hot water bottles?
Yeah. What's it like? Is it wet?
Mate, at the moment it's dry, just gently spitting. I'm just going to go dark for a moment. Hold on a second. Wait, you can come with me if you want. Yeah. So, Team 3.
Team 3, got it.
Okay, buddy. It's really good to hear from you.
Good luck, mate.
Appreciate it. You take care, man. Bye, Sam. Bye. So, if we go dive planes, we'll make a decision about which one at a time, and go up one on the rear wing, just to balance the error.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much.
No problem at all, sir.
Fire up the fan in a minute.
With the final checks completed, the first stint drivers for both teams were sent to the grid, while Charlie got himself race ready. Once the safety car peeled off the track, Neil waited for the leader to pick his moment. The race was now officially underway. A tardy start meant Neil lost ground and was easily passed by the Seiko into turn 1. Meanwhile, all the crews could now place themselves on the pit wall while Charlie waited patiently in position. The sister team were pulling away in the lead. Josh had an update.
So we obviously started third, dropped down to 6th. So a couple of teams above us, but they've got their A car out basically at the moment. So we think as the stints progress, obviously we'll be able to move back up the order. The top 3 is going to be tight, which we knew before the start of the event, but certainly the 2 that are above us, we think we can catch throughout the stints in the race. So yeah, we've just got to keep going.
The weather conditions looked ominous, but impossible to second guess. To Charlie's surprise, the team had only elected for the first stint driver to do 1 hour, despite the car's 75-litre tank capable of doing an hour and a half. With Neil's hour coming to an end, it was essential that Charlie was ready to take over. However, there were some last-minute challenges with the new light.
It's really dim compared to where it was.
Lights have changed to red. I think it might be getting hot.
Are you ready to rock the car if I can't get it in gear? Can you check if he's coming in? Because I think he's supposed to be coming in right now. Can you check?
How long, guys? About 1 minute. He's on his way in now.
Get the fan on the water. Get the fan on the water quick.
With the light now working properly, Charlie took over from Neil and headed out for his first stint as spots of rain started to appear. Soon into the stint, it starts raining, with Charlie running on Dunlop slicks. The field for the Birkett race is one of the most varied. However, according to Charlie, certain drivers of certain car types demonstrate similar behaviours. Due to their good visibility and because they're quite exposed, drivers of Caterham cars have safety at the front of their mind, are often quite courteous, and look out for faster cars approaching them. Drivers of Fun Cup cars are more likely to pull across other cars going into corners, probably due to their poor rear visibility. Other notable groups are the BMW compacts, who tend to fight every corner irrespective of class. The most courteous of drivers seem to be the Honda VTECs. The cars are quick, but when approached by a faster car, often a hand pops out of their side window to indicate when it's safest to pass. One particular feature stuck out for Charlie in this year's race, and that was the illuminated pit board, operated efficiently by Jordan Phillips. Lit at the appropriate time, it enabled Charlie to see essential information easily every lap.
They're being chased down by the 3 team that was 29 seconds behind crossing the line up to Charles Graham.
Well, almost certainly the 3 team will catch them because either of those cars that are going out will be much slower than the Radical of Charles Graham. Also, in short, there you can see Russ McCarthy in his MGB, and there was contact, and that's tremendous synchronised spinning. That was really rather elegant to watch, wasn't it, as the cars went round together. It was only a light touch, wasn't it, but enough to send both around.
Okay, it's just starting to rain. We've got 3 minutes left of the stint, so we should be fine, should come in. Might switch the other car over to wet. It's been a good race so far, P1, P2.
As the rain became heavier, Charlie's stint drew to a close. The team pit him after an hour's running.
Hi Ben, what a stint. We went out P6, brought it back in P3, which I'm really proud of. Quicker than in qualifying. The car, I felt so comfortable in the car that sometimes it just dances. And I had really varying conditions. When I first went out, it was raining on slicks, then it dried a bit, then it was spitting, then it started raining again, then it went off, then it came back. But this new surface they've put in at Silverstone, they spent, I'm not allowed to say how much they spent on the laser levelling, but oh my god, does it work. And even on slicks you have so much grip. But I was able to make the car dance, felt really comfortable with it. The brake pedal was longer as expected, but we held out and the brakes were still there at the end of the stint. So I'm really happy with that. P6 to P3 doesn't get any better than that. Well, I guess unless you take P1, but we'll see later. Thank you.
While Charlie's car was being refueled, Alistair in the PR6 was experiencing overheating problems out on track. Unfortunately, after 20 minutes, they were forced to pit Alistair and send Jason out in the Radical. As the conditions worsened, Jason began to struggle and the team began to drop further and further back. The team had to make a decision.
We're bringing our guy in, it's starting to get really wet, so we're going to bring our guy in, launch Charles out on wets.
How many laps to go?
How many laps to go? Well, we're going to bring him in now.
Right.
We're still running third, but we've only got a lap in hand, so we're keen to get Charles out.
Leave me out as long as you can. My tank in the wet is over an hour.
The crew made quick work of switching slicks to wets.
Tell them I'm going to start the engine. I'm going to start the engine. We're clear at the back. Clear.
As Charlie exited the pit lane, he spots the leader and gives chase immediately. Despite the tyres not being up to temperature, he managed to catch and pass the leader on his outlap, thereby unlapping the team. 8 minutes into his stint, and Charlie's dash timer had stopped working. He frantically tried to reset it whilst wrestling the car through the complex in the rain. Timer reset, he could then switch his focus to the job at hand. It was inevitable under the treacherous conditions that yellow flags would be a feature. The greatly reduced visibility meant they were hard to spot. A number of times Charlie mistakenly overtook under yellows, 3 times in one 6-minute period, but ensured to give the places back to avoid a penalty. The race was typically busy and dangerous. Charlie expressed his frustration, made the pass, and hunted down and passed the Audi.
We've got the 3 of Charles Graham back on track.
Yeah, that would make sense because that's now lapping faster than the 2 cars ahead of it, isn't it? That the number 3 car did a 2:35 last time through compared to 2:47s, 2:48s.
The Ferraris were running 4th and Charlie was 3rd. Putting another lap in them would further secure the team's podium if he could do it. It was nip and tuck, but he got the job done. Next up was another caterer. He pushed Charlie wide and nearly snatched the grass while making the pass. Just up ahead were the leaders. They were now within touching distance, albeit a few laps ahead. It was a perfect exit, and he kept his foot in. Against the drying conditions, the plucky Dunlop wets were performing well, and Charlie unlapped the leaders for the 2nd time. Things started to get spicy, fighting the corners to keep the car straight. Soon it was time to call Charlie in. Alistair was pushed into position. Charlie pitted. As Alistair took over, Charlie was buzzing.
How was that?
Epic. Epic. Yeah. Been out for the last 35 minutes on wet tyres and it's dry. So the tyres went off completely, so I'm sliding around all over the place. The downshift blipper's not working, or it's intermittent, which is a problem. But I overtook the leaders, so epic stint. Not used, I mean, we always have adventures, don't we? We always have dramas. That was an epic stint, it was amazing, I had a really good time. Held P3, so now let's see what happens. I'm hoping I put us in a good position, maybe we can jump one more. I want to have a podium, Ben, that's the deal. If we're going to have a podium, I'm happy. Thank you.
While Charlie got some R&R and his car refueled, there were developments on track. The PR6 had once again overheated and the team needed to send Neil out, but he was not ready. The team lost vital time while Neil got his race gear on and strapped into the car. Once he was out on track, Neil struggled. The rain became much heavier and he dropped further and further back. Whilst it wasn't in the original game plan, the team called upon Charlie for a third time.
Give it a go again then, Charlie? Looks like it may happen, yeah. So the two leaders both got 60-second penalties for overtaking under yellows. I did it twice, and both times I gave the place back and I stood on the brakes. The problem is, you're coming up so fast in the radical behind people, and also if you've got bigger cars in front of you, like a Ferrari or something, you can't see the yellows because you're so low. So I overtook at least twice, maybe 3 times under yellows. Each time I gave the place back. At one point, Maggots Beckett, I had to pretty much stop to get the guy to take it back. But so it's kind of interesting. They've both got 60-second penalties. This car's now overheated, so I'm now in reserve for the last hour, and I've got a feeling we could be going out. Downshift flipper's not fixed, but fingers crossed. The chasing, we've got 3 Ferraris, Team 5 chasing us.
What's he gone out on? Slicks. Okay, we need this one. We need this one to go up.
Had a good day.
We have had an
You
amazing...
enjoyed yourself?
Hands up, hands up.
The sister team got away first. After 2 minutes sitting poised, Charlie was released. The team began prepping Neil's car. Back on track, there was bad news for the sister team, with Ash Hicklin's car coming to a stop, catching Charlie's attention. Back in the garage, Josh gave us an update.
So what's the state of play right now?
I'm not even sure what the state of play is right now. So obviously we had an issue with Ash's car where his rear wing frame collapsed. So we had to bring him in and send Scott out. Scott was on slicks, which at the time was okay, and started to rain pretty quickly. So that was obviously an issue at that point. So we had to box Scott whilst we fixed Ash's car. So that puts us in P2, about a lap behind now, which is not ideal. And then obviously for the Team 3 car, we had a little strategy issue with the driver not being ready, which cost us again a lap. So we're looking at 2nd and 3rd right now. Obviously that's not really where we want to be, but the race isn't over yet.
Charlie stay out now to the end?
Yeah, so the plan for Charles is to keep him out to the end. Obviously we'll prep another car just in case. If he has an issue, then we've got another car sat there should we need one. The same obviously for the Team 30 car is Ash. We plan to get him to the finish. But again, another car being prepared just as a backup should we need it.
Sort of since that phase where the stop-goes had to be served, Charles Graham continues for 3, doesn't he, the white car?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Charlie's car was becoming a bit of a handful. The rain had stopped, and the newly resurfaced track was doing a great job of draining water from the tarmac. As a result, Charlie's wet tyres were starting to overheat, meaning he had to harden the wet patches to cool them down. Given the mixed conditions, Charlie's mind turned to strategy.
Am I going to go to the end? Am I running to the end to finish the race?
The radio only seemed to be working one way. The team could hear Charlie, but he could not hear them. He persevered to try and get the information he needed, knowing that he could run longer, having used less fuel in the wet conditions. A pit stop now would be disastrous.
Andy, I'm off finishing the race. I'm off finishing the race. I got enough fuel. I got enough fuel to get to the end. I'm at 45 minutes on the counter. Okay, I can't hear you. Can you put it on a bit more? Yeah. Think I've got enough fuel? No, I haven't.
After 5 laps of one-way messages, the team duly put the information on the pit board. Charlie stayed out and took a very hard-fought third place at the checkered.
So Team 30 in second place, RJ Motorsport V2.0. Scott Mansell, Joe Locke, Matthew Jones, Ashley Hicklin and Joe Crook. RJ Motorsport V1.0, team number 3 in third positions. That features last year's scratch winner, Charles Graham, but also Alistair Smart, Neil Glover and Jason Green. The RJ Motorsport team was second on scratch in 2019.
On the slowing down lap, he paid tribute to the marshals. Whilst it may not have been a win, the team was still proud of the results.
It's been absolutely brilliant, ecstatic, brilliant result, brilliant weekend. Couldn't ask for any more, or maybe first. The trophy is always nice, but always winners no matter what.
Well done.
Well done you.
Thanks
Good
for
job.
the help.
Good job.
What a run, eh?
Well done. Last stint, brilliant. Really
Thanks,
good.
Al. Appreciate it, buddy. P3, I think, yeah?
Yeah, man.
It's a podium, so we're happy with that, aren't we? Yeah. And again, it was another epic Birkett, so thanks for coming. You have fun? Yeah, it's been great. It's been really good fun. And I think we acquitted ourselves well. So nothing to be ashamed of. Come back, way to Luciano.